Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. In this technical analysis of the stock market video, we're going to start off looking at the NDX after we look at the side-by-side view, the industrials, the S&P 500, and the NDX. So we had very minimal movement in the major indices this last week. The Dow was up a whopping 40 points, the S&P 500 13 points, and the Nasdaq 100 27 points. It barely moved at the end of the week. We had a very compressed week here on the S&P 500 in the prior week, and I thought, well, a lot of times when you get compression like that, you get expansion. Well, we did, but it wasn't that much. So I think we increased from like 60-something, 68 that week to this last week, a range of 91 points from high to low. So not huge, not anything like this or back down here in April. So that's where we sit with the side-by-side look. I want to drill in and take a look at the NDX. So on Friday, let me move this over, up 241.68. Now, the interesting thing is the futures were really sky high after the jobs report came out Friday morning. And so all the indices opened with a big gap to the upside. And then they sold off for about the first hour and a half or so, and then got their got their feet underneath them and started pushing higher, and they almost all closed right about where they opened. So kind of interesting move that happened in here. But the other thing that jumps out at me, two things actually. 3 closes below the 10-day moving average, and now we have another close back above it. So it's making me think, watching for Monday, Tuesday, are we going to push higher in here and resume the push to the upside? Now, the key is, do we take out Tuesday's high and then push to take out Thursday, July 26th high right here? Let me go to the Qs so we see some easier numbers to work with. The high on Tuesday was 488 even, okay? We closed 487.32 on Friday. So we're not very far below taking out that high. The actual high on Friday was 487.88, so 12 cents below that Tuesday high. And then when you come over here to the Thursday, the 26th, the high is 493.70. I think if we push above Tuesday and push above the 26th, we're going to see this continue to push to the upside, and wouldn't be surprised to see it take out the mid-July highs. So that's what we're looking at. But the wave count I'm working is that it's got to prove that that's what it wants to do, because I've been looking for a wave 4 of more of a sideways type of action, because the minor wave 2 was a sharp pullback. So we'll see if we get it. It's not a rule. You don't have to get it. If we continue to push higher in here, like I just talked about and just described, I'll be moving to this alternate count that says wave 4 is done here, and that we've got this kind of scenario that it's 1, 2, 3. That's going to be the alternate if we push above the highs I just described. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of indicators. I want to start off by taking a look at the VIX. Okay, so we've had some volatility bubbling around. Let me go here to my basic view, my traditional view with the moving averages and everything. So the huge explosion beginning of August, another pop to the upside beginning of September. Now we're getting it again the beginning of October. Now each one of the September's been a lot more subdued than August. This is a little more at this point subdued than September. But you got to wonder, is something starting to bubble around? Is this like breaking the ice, and now all of a sudden some things are going to start cooking? We'll see. When I look at this, here's the high of September, 23.76. And then, is this September? No, it's August. So here's the low for September, 14.90. And we are sitting what looks like almost exactly halfway between halfway between the high and low here for September. So it's going to be really interesting. Do we continue to push, get above 20 and take out the highs? Or do we fail and collapse and sell off down here to the low side? The other thing that's going on is when I look at, the high yield bond fund, we talk about risk on, risk off with the high yield bond fund. Well, it was really surging and really pushing, got above this resistance zone that I had identified in here. We closed above it the week of September 15th and stayed there the following week. But now we've pulled back down into it. Could just be a pullback, but it's definitely saying on a daily basis, risk off. Okay, October 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, basically saying risk off 4 days in a row below the 10-day moving average. We haven't had that since back over here at the beginning of August. So we'll see if this is going to flip back above and resume, get back above the 10-day and start pushing. Or is this going to flip over to the downside? So those are a couple of things that we're watching. Now let's take a look at oil, because man, this thing is pretty wild. I'm going to look at this is WTI, and this is the futures, front month on the futures. Okay, so it was up $6.20 this last week. Look at this move. Big move. Of course, you know why. You know everything that's going on with all the tension and everything in the Middle East over there. But this is an interesting view right here. Okay, when I look back into 2019 and since 2019, we had basically a zone of resistance that had established. But then in 2021, we pushed above it, and that resistance zone became support. So we've got the support in 21, we got the support again in 23, and multiple times now we've come down into this, and it seems like once again, in the pullback that occurred here with the low the week of September 7th, that we're getting support. So it'll be really interesting. Do we come up here and, take out those highs like that trend line and push like this? Or do we fail and flip and close below that support level? That would be very, very negative for oil. So we'll see what happens in here. Right now, it looks and acts like it wants to continue to push to the upside. When you look at the Bloomberg Commodity Index, I'm going to flip over to that real quick. I mean, look at the surge that it's had the last 4 weeks. This is a weekly view coming off a major support down here. Let me go pull this back. There we go. So this is something I look at every week too. And so this is kind of interesting. We'll see if this can continue to push up in here. It had some difficulty getting above, say, 108 and got some pretty significant support down here at 94, 95. Okay, let's take a look at the stuff, the action in China. Okay, let's take a look at the action going on in China. I'm going to start off with FXI, what I call China large cap, because half the stocks in this index are on the Hang Seng. They're large cap stocks on the Hang Seng index. Look at this weekly view. This was up $3.58, 11% again this week on top of the move that happened this last week. So the thing I'm starting off with this. Why? Because the volume on this was incredible this last week. 627.5 million shares traded. And it got above, over the last 2 weeks, this pivot point in July, the pivot point in January of 23. This was July of 23. And then this pivot point right here in June of 22. It's broken and closed above all of that. Now, it's really gotten carried away. The RSI is sitting at 84.2. And yeah, I've found RSIs of 84 in the past, not very often. So you got to be careful about that. Four weeks in a row, this kind of move way above the Keltner channels. That's a little light dash line. So it's going to be interesting to see, what kind of retracement move do we get out of this, and how soon does it start to pull back? Okay, because it's gotten a little bit overdone. We'll see how this plays out over the next couple of weeks. And the other thing is I like to look at the monthly view too. Let me get rid of this. And then you can look at and see, well, what did it do before? Yeah, it really got going back here, 05, 06, 07. And, it's had some spurts, different times over the years. And but right now, it seems like it's pushed pretty far, pretty quick. Okay, so what I want to do is go back to the weekly, and I want to look at KWeb. Okay. Crane shares CSS China Internet. This was the second most active of the three I was looking at. This was had 301 million shares traded this last week. Big, strong move. Now, this too closed above some key, what I would have thought to have been resistance levels. We'll see what develops on some kind of pullback in here. But again, big, strong move, up basically 4 weeks in a row. And of course, the last 2 weeks have been huge in here. And then when we take a look, the last one I want to look at is MSCI China ETF right here. Okay. It did not jump above those key resistance levels like the other two did. It's struggling with, June of 22 and this high of January 23. It's right there. So this has been up 4 weeks in a row also. Yes, it's extended quite a bit on the RSI. And the volume on this, 59 million. So in terms of volume, it's well into third place. FXI 627, KWeb 301, and MCSI. I've got because China, so it's CHI. So this is in at 59 million. So, I'm intrigued. We're watching, looking at the monthly views. This one doesn't grab me nearly as much as, some of these others have done, especially on the monthly view and FXI. But man, FXI back in 2015 on a monthly view, well, actually it was 2007 into 2008. That peak in 2007. 2015 had a heck of a run. Of course, the Shanghai Composite, which I don't have here. Let me grab that real quick. Here's the Shanghai Composite. Now, I believe that the mainland indices, now this is showing the week of September 29th, but I think it may have only been open one day because I think the mainland stock exchanges were all closed, Shenzhen and Shanghai, for the Golden Week that they have in October. So I think that was closed. But man, when you look at this, let me go to a monthly view. Here's that 06, 07, and here's 14 into 15. Pretty incredible explosions to the upside. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. And of course, we all know some of the very active stocks like, Alibaba, Baidu, JD.com, etc. Okay, that's it for this weekend. If you felt like the video was helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, hit that little subscriber button. And if you'd like more of this information on a regular basis, head on over to joehenches.net. Check out the website and the membership. Everyone have a great week. We'll talk to you on the next video.